Hey y'all. I'm back for part 5. Part 5 of this journal process that I'm working on and sharing with you guys because you guys wanted to see this. And I know some of it is not as fun, some of it's a little boring. This to me is one of those sort of it's not fun. It's not a fun part of the journal making process. I mean, I enjoy doing all of it, but for some of you, if you know the 3-hole pamphlet stitch and you've made journals, you might not want to sit through this and watch this video. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I'm going to try to, now when I'm not on camera and I'm doing stuff and I'm kind of on a roll, it doesn't take me too long to bind several signatures, but as we all know, when we get on camera, that's when things tend to go awry. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll see. I just hit my table. We'll see how long this takes me to do. So I have 5 signatures. Now I went back to the sewing machine. Okay, I went back to the sewing machine and I did all my sewing that I'm gonna do actually in it before I bind it. Now I'll probably add other elements where some other sewing might be involved, but I'm just not gonna do it in the, on the pages directly. And then I switched. I had this particular sheet of scrapbook paper as my front cover. I switched that sheet out with this sheet of scrapbook paper. I didn't change anything else in the signature, but I changed that because I really like this better as you open the journal. I still like this, so that's why I flipped them, but I just like the combination of these two together. So now is the time before you sew things in to, if you want to go back through your pages and change anything around, shift any pages, so forth, so on. Now is the time to do that before you stitch them in. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside for the moment. And then I have a template here that I use, that I've made for the 3-hole pamphlet stitch for 5 signatures, so that when I get ready to make a journal, I have several templates. Okay, I have a whole stack. Well, those are just some templates for other things, but I have a whole stack of templates made so that when I get ready to make a journal, because y'all know I do not love measuring, that this just makes things a lot quicker, especially if I'm doing a series of journals. I've already got a template. For these, I'm not comfortable, eyeballing 5 signatures. Some people are really good at that. They can do that. I'm not going to do that. If I was doing 2, yeah, maybe. Definitely one signature, I can eyeball the center, and I'm not gonna mark all that out. Okay. But for this, so I have these. I keep these in my my little tote with a lot of my basic supplies. And then I have this little bag that was gifted to me from my sweet friend William, and this is where I keep my binding stuff. So in here I have this clip. I have a couple of big paper clips. I have my thread, and I use a couple of different kinds of thread. And what did I do with my other white? I have a bigger one of these that I use a lot of times if I'm going to use a white. Some of these are, like, this is a Lenco brand. I'll just tell you a little bit about the wax linen thread that I use. This is a Lenco brand, and this is a 5-ply. Like, I don't know how many millimeters it is, but it's like 5 pieces of thread waxed together. It's a little bit thicker, okay? So, for when I'm doing charms, this is what I like to use, this type of wax linen thread. Now, the thinner, which is like a 1 millimeter, it's not as thick a waxing Oh, well, it's just a stick wax. It's just thinner. It's just a thinner thread. This to me works better when you're binding. Okay? I mean, this works fine. I've used this a million times. Well, maybe not a million times. I've used this a ton. But this thinner thread works better when you're binding. Okay? And you can use these for charms and stuff too. I just kind of prefer this one. I'll use any of them. So today, I think I'm actually going to do this in black just for the contrast. And then that's going to be covered up. Some of that's going to be covered up on the spine anyway. But I think I want to go with the black. And this will probably show up better in showing you this. And I'm going to have some shadows. I'm using natural light, but it's been sunny, like cloudy, sunny, cloudy, sunny today. So as that happens, and we're going to get some shadows here. So I apologize for that. But if I turn my lights on, it's even worse. So yeah, you can see. So we got shadows. But so I use 2 big jumbo paper clips. You can use these binder clips as well. I use that to hold the pages together. I'm going to show you. You can use these. This is like to hold art. I've had these forever. These are 30 years old. These are clips that I use to hold art onto an easel. I had them in school a long, long time ago. These are a little more cumbersome because they are tight. Like it's like a vice. It's like a vice grip, but it's going to hold whatever you have it holding. And then, let's see. You're going to need... Go back. Throw this in here. Okay. So you're going to need an awl or some kind of pokey tool. I don't know if you can see this, yeah. To make your holes. And then I use this is a needlework needle. If you can see, it's long. So the eye of it is a little bit larger than a regular needle, and it's a long needle, but the end is really sharp. Okay, so there's like 16 different kinds of needles. So if you want to look that up and look at the difference if you're not that familiar with all that, and I don't know all of them, I actually looked it up myself so I could explain to you what kind of needle this is that I'm using. I prefer this needle because I have huge hands, and this just works easier for me. This is what works for me. But you can buy the kit. You can buy a bookbinding kit, and it will come with, now some of these I've just thrown in here. So you can see the difference in these needles. So this one has a curve to it. So this is for like leather or upholstery when it has that curve in it. And, you know, just different types of needles. These are thicker. They have bigger eyes. And then these are just like, I guess regular sort of stitching, sewing needles. They have small eyes and a sharp point. But you can look all that up. And then you just have to figure out what works for you. And I just dropped one, which I'm going to step on later. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, that was smooth, Carla. Okay. Let's just hope I don't step on it. I'll find it later. Okay, so you can buy a kit that comes with this. It'll come with thread. It'll come with needles. I think it comes with a bone folder. Several different things. I'll link. Now, I'm not affiliated with Amazon or anything like that, but I will put a link for like a little bookbinding kit, like the one I purchased. And, you know, and then these, you can just order jumbo paper clips. Whatever you want to use, whatever you feel comfortable with. But these are my go-to. These are my go-to things right here. Okay? These are my go-to things when I'm bookbinding. And, of course, you need a pen. And if you're going to have to measure all this out, you need a ruler. Okay? All right. So now what I do, and when I'm not using this is what I do, because I will lose it or drop it like I just did. I have this little cork that I stick both of those in that bag. Okay, so because I did this, and this is something I almost messed up on one of these journals, because I kind of did some not real straight stitching in here. I don't want to do my holes in here because that blurs my lines. Okay, so I don't want to make my marks. I'm going to do it on the other side. Normally, I do not do it this way. Normally, I would mark my holes on the inside unless the fabric is hard to really see where your holes are. Then I'll go on this side. But for these, because I can definitely see my lines here, I'm going to line this up, and it's a little bit, it's almost like right on the lines, my template here, okay? So I'm going to line this up, and I apologize, I know it gets darker and then it gets lighter. So I hope you guys can see this. I'm just going to hold this, okay, for this purpose. And if I wasn't doing this on camera, I would probably use a white gel pen to do this, but you're not going to be able to see that well. So I'm going to use the black. So I'm going to come through my holes, and I'm just going to mark my little dots. And I've used this quite a few times, so I've poked through both sides of it. Sometimes I will just simply hold it on here and just take this and poke the holes, but if you're just starting out, and I wasn't about to do that on camera because you know what? I know I would mess it up if I tried to do it on camera. Okay, so now, can you see I don't even know if you can see my marks. Can you see my dots? And I'm sorry, guys, about the lighting, but I want to get this done. I don't want y'all to have to wait 2 weeks. And if I don't do it while I'm rolling, you know, on this sort of groove thing, it won't get done. So now I'm going to take my awl, and I'm going to go to where my holes are, or where my dots are. And I'm going to poke through this. And this, because of the texture of this, is much easier than some journals that I've done. If you do and I'm not worried about the holes being too big because this is very forgiving, and it will kind of, you can kind of rub it back over the thread. If I'm doing, and typically I have something under here, like a foam or something, but I didn't pull that out. So if you want to lay it flat and use a piece of foam. And be very careful where you put your hands. Be very careful where you put this hand up underneath here, because I've stuck myself many, many times, and it is not pleasant. Yeah, it hurts. Okay, so simple as that. Now I've poked my holes, okay? Now, because this fabric is fairly thin, you can see them on this side. When I did the pink journal that has that floral fabric with the green and the pink flowers and stuff, I could barely see the holes on this side. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing this. You know, you might have to come back through and find them again and poke through again on this side so you can see them better. You know, and now there's all sorts of ways of people do this all different ways, so this is just my way. Okay, and I usually leave when I'm making my templates, I typically leave a little bit more room between this hole and the edge. You know, just a hair more than what I do in between these. It just seems to work better for me. Now, there's probably a lot of people going to holler about the way I do this, but I'm going to turn my book this way, and I'm going to take my signature. And some people will some people will bind in back to front. I usually bind in front to back. It's just your preference. It doesn't really, it's not a rule as far as I know. There's no rules in any of this, in my opinion. This is all about your style, what you're comfortable doing, what you like, what you don't like. You know, you just do your own thing. I'm just showing you my way, because I've had quite a few people ask me for some of these videos to see how I see my process. Okay, so now I made sure I had my pages where I wanted them. Okay, and you can see I am not concerned about everything being flush, everything being the same size. I am concerned about it being straight, and I am concerned about the holes going in the right place. Okay, so when I come, I'm gonna line my pages up, and if you can see, there's a little bit of an edge there, and I don't know if you can really tell. There's a little bit of an edge here, and I'm making sure that I've got this in the center. Okay, now I'm gonna line it, so I'm lining it up with my holes, or with my, making sure I'm not like this. Okay, or I'm not way up here, you know, or way down here. I'm in, you know, in the center of the book. And then I'm gonna kind of line this up right here. And this one page looks a little bit off, and it may just be the way I cut it. Okay, yeah. Just make sure you have everything folded and all, you know, pushed together. And the purpose of the paper clips is, while you're doing this, the paper clips are going to hold that in place. All right, so back to this. So I'm going to line this up. And then I take my awl, and I just kind of, I can see when I come through here, I'm peeking up underneath here. Like, I can see where that sort of line is, and where you can't see it, but I can see. That my hole's about right there. Okay, so I'm gonna poke, see that? Poke my awl right through there, lined up with that hole. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. And you will understand this better. You'll be able to see it, but well, can't go through the paper clip. Well, make sure you're in the center, you know, of your signature. You know, make sure you're in here. And then I'm gonna eyeball this one the same way. And when it comes through, you see it's lined up with my hole right there. I don't know if you can really see that, but anyway. And I'm gonna make I make a decent sized hole in here. Some people will just barely poke through there. And then for me, that's a struggle when I go to bind it, because I have a hard time getting the needle to come back through here. And you'll see in a minute. So I'm gonna take my needle, and I'm gonna pull my string out double the size of my page. And did I put a pair of scissors over here? No. You need these, y'all. You do need some scissors. Hello. Okay, so then I'm gonna thread it. And that's one thing I like about the bigger eye, is that the older I get, my eyes are not as great. Even though I have prescription glasses, it's just easier than having to thread this thicker thread through a little tiny needle. And this makes it easier for me to sort of move the book around, and then having a longer thread it's not as tight trying to bind it. I can kind of get all my strings in there and then pull. Okay. So I'm gonna flip my book back around. I'm gonna go through the middle. Now you can come through, if you want your strings on the outside, you come through the outside. If you want your threads on the inside, you come through the inside. So you're gonna go through the middle hole first. Yeah, I knew I was gonna do that. And pull through. Yeah, I am not a professional. Okay, then I'm gonna come through this last hole here. And see, this is how I do it. I'm going to pull through this first. Some people will go ahead and do their needle, you know, through that and the pages at the same time. I like to use longer thread because this is easier for me. So then I'm going to come through this hole right here. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. If you don't get that hole big enough, it's a struggle to get that through. And then I kind of pull, and then I'm going to turn my book around, and I'm going to go up to this hole, okay, the top hole, and then come through the top hole up here, and then pull it through, okay? Now, if you'll see how my string is, if you use this long needle, okay, and then you don't give yourself enough thread, I'm just going to show you a little trick. If you don't give yourself enough thread, then you're going to have this little thread here, and you're going to try to be digging this big needle, you know, without pulling your thread through. Okay? So I'm going to go back through here, and I need to make sure that I don't pierce through the thread. Okay, so make sure that you don't pierce through this thread when you're doing that, or when you come back through here. So then you come back through. Now I just take my needle right off my thread at this point, and I see that I have not pierced that thread. You'll know it if you do it. And if you do that, you don't want to continue with the binding. You want to make sure that you stop at that point and pull the threads apart, because if you don't, eventually it'll wear. So I'm gonna make sure I've got these tight. Okay, I'm gonna pull tight, and then I'm gonna tie it and tie it again. There. Pull my paper clips off, and then I always kind of check to make sure. And then where I poke my holes, I'm gonna kind of push that little bit of paper down right there, and then check to make sure that it's in here good, it's tight, you know, then it's where I want it, okay? It's not hanging out the bottom, it's not hanging out the top, which if it does a little bit, this one paper is just a hair, and I think it's because I didn't cut it quite straight. But it's not, you know, it's not a big deal. It's because this paper is a little more flexible. It's more like a wallpaper. That doesn't bother me because I like stuff poking out, you know, all sides of my journals anyway. So, but it's straight and it's in there in the perimeter. Now, if you like more space, you know, if you want a bigger gap, then just cut your, either make your cover bigger or your pages shorter. This is just how I do it. All right, so I'm gonna do this again. So this is my second signature. I'm trying not to hit the camera this time. I'm gonna make sure I've got my pages where I want them. And you can see I went back and sewed this page in. And these really don't have a lot of, you know, smaller pages. I'm gonna kind of center that. And kind of center that a little bit. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not too concerned with them all lining up perfectly. That's just not my, perfect's not my gig. But I do want to make sure, like I said, like they're straight. Okay. And then I'll take my paper clips. Okay, see this, I've already, it's already 24 minutes because I did a lot of explaining. So, we'll line this up again. Thread. And I always use more. I'd rather have more than what I need than not enough. So, and when I cut off those extras, I'll save those. I'll save those and kind of put them aside and sort of put them in a little scrap bin, and then I can use them to thread buttons and stuff like that for other things. So I'm gonna go through the center, and then make sure that you're coming through the right holes. I've done that before, not paying attention, and then had to undo stuff because I went through the wrong, went to the next hole by accident. But I really, this stuff, man, is so easy to work with. I love it. You'll see some more journals made out of this from me. This and like using the file folders and stuff and the fabric ones, so much easier than like binding a really thick, like the hardcover spine, a hard spine. This to me is so much easier. It's forgiving. It's more forgiving, I should say. So that's signature number 2. And like I said, I just kind of go through and flip and make sure everything, lined up, looking right. Then, when I get a couple of signatures going, this is what I use this clip for. To hold that, so I can come with my next signature. Make sure I got all this lined up like I want it. Is that where I want it? No, that's supposed to be here. Yeah, go back through and double check everything's where you want it. Sometimes when I'm sewing, I get things mixed up when I put it back together. Okay. So I'm gonna line this up. And this page, I probably could have cut it down a hair more, but it's okay. It's a junk journal. Yeah. And thread. Got it. Y'all having fun yet? Isn't this fun? This takes a minute. It really does. Takes some time, and of course it gets a little bit easier the more you do it. The more comfortable you get with it, and the more you figure out what kind of things you really like to do and the things you don't like to do. Because if you're doing art, let me pull this back through some. If you're doing any kind of art, anything creative, if you're not enjoying it, in my humble opinion, if it does not bring you joy, you shouldn't be doing it. Where you get frustrated with things sometimes. Oh yeah, well there'll be projects that you hit a wall. Okay, here, this is good, because see, this went through. I split. See that? How that split? Because I'm talking and not paying attention. I pulled this thread through the middle of that thread. So I'm gonna pull it out. Like that. If you don't catch that, then this will not if it does that, this won't tighten like it's supposed to. It won't tighten up here like it's supposed to. And it won't, it will break. Eventually it will, I mean, it won't hold up very well. All right, these are super long. I'm gonna get really carried away. I'm gonna cut some of these out. So I'm gonna save these. Some of it, I'll save the longer ones. Sometimes I try to save every little thing and I can't. It gets ridiculous. Okay. So that's the third one, so we got 2 more to go. And I'm gonna go through this whole process with you guys, so maybe if you see it several times, it'll make it a little bit easier if I've been in frame. I hope I've been in frame. And do let me know if this helps you guys out. And some of my little tips and stuff that I've learned along the way. Because I've, you know, made many boo-boos doing this. I'm just checking that I have my pages where I want them. Yeah. I think I want, yeah, I kind of wanted that way. This in the middle. All right. I love this floral paper right here. I think it's so pretty. Which I love all of Maggie Holmes' paper. It just has that, it has that vintage vibe without being too, you know, it's just pretty paper. She just does a really good job with the whole vintage look in a new product, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Now, you probably have a hard time seeing the holes here, but I can see them just fine. And if you're doing this, you would be able to see them. And now you can measure them out and make yourself little marks, you know, and then come back. If you don't feel comfortable holding the paper up against the cover and doing it that way, you can kind of hold the paper, you know, you can put the paper like this way, your signatures, and then kind of make you a little mark or mark somewhere for you to guide you. You know, or you could just absolutely measure out your holes against, you know, your paper. Some people are that meticulous and that precise, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either. But that's just not how I am. To me, that is unnerving and just takes too much time. I'm too impatient, and I'm not good. I'm just not good at that. My creative brain, or my brain, period, is not good at that. And some people are absolutely fabulous at it. I'm not one of them. So making sure this is tight. And we're going to be covering up a lot of that black thread anyway, because we're going to put fabric washi. We're going to put the washi pieces across here and here and here. But I'm really enjoying how these are turning out. Been super inspired and having a lot of fun making these. Love these covers. And I really do. I mean, you guys know, you've seen my journals, or if you've seen any of my other journals, just really like a mix of things, a mix of old things with new things, with, you know, tea-dyed, with white paper, with, you know, a lot of contrast and a lot of interest. And, you know, while I like to kind of keep things cohesive, I just like the mixture of all that. like, I mean, I'm eclectic, but I wouldn't put like a bohemian style fabric or something like that in this type of journal. Just like I wouldn't put kind of the kid looking elements in the vintage style journals that I made. I know that makes sense. Or if you're just doing a flow, if you're doing a flow journal, or if you're really just, you can mix a lot of that stuff up. If like I said, there's no rules. But I personally, in a journal that I'm working in, unless it's like a supply journal or something, maybe some of those elements go together, but not all of them. In my humble opinion. And I know this is a long video. Not too bad. Not too bad based on all my yakking and explaining stuff. Okay. Okay. So now this one's bound and ready to embellish. So our next step will be picking out some washi to go around there, and then actually the next thing that I actually do is I'll go through and I'm putting all my tools back up in my little special bag from my special friend Wim. Putting that up first, and then the next thing I'll do is go through here and look how flat this lays, y'all. Like look how flat. I'm loving these journals. Okay, so the next thing I do is I'll go through and I'll add buttons, because that's one thing that I just love doing. I have a ton of buttons. I love using them. That's why I have them. And I'll go through and pick out the buttons, and then we'll pick out the washi. I'll show you some samples, and I'll show you kind of our next, part of our next steps is I have this bin right here, kind of like the other bin that I have of all the tags and tucks and all the embellishment stuff, that I showed you guys. So I have this other big bin, and this is a 12 by 12 bin, and this I have the 100 scrappy flowers that I made. I have some ruffles that I've already stitched buttons in. I have just some regular ruffles, fabric ruffles. I have a ton of the tabs, the fabric tabs with the buttons that I've made. So we'll go through and we'll pick out, I'm not going to keep doing it on this video because it's almost 40 minutes, but we'll pick out some of the things from here, and then this is some of the fabric washi. So we'll go through some of this and figure out what we're going to use in here. So the next videos will be the fun ones, or will be the more fun ones. So, this is like the not so fun part, okay? But to me anyway. And then you can watch me go through buttons and stuff. And if you want to see me kind of go through, I've already sort of gone through some of my beads and buttons and picked out what I'm going to put on the charm. I can show you that too. I can kind of show you what I'm planning on putting on the charm, or just show you kind of how I do that. but it's sort of the same way. It's kind of based on sort of colors that are in here and just what I think aesthetically looks good. And but anyway, so that is the binding, and I hope some of you learned from that, and some of you seasoned journal makers, if you haven't tried this stuff, you gotta try it. You really gotta try it. It's just really, if you like a soft cover journal, this stuff is great. I love it. Anyhow, I will see you probably over the weekend is when I will do part 6. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for all your love and support. Bye.